Let's go.
You're listening to Making Data Simple, where we make the world of data effortless, relevant, and yes, even fun.
Podcast listeners, Al Martin here. You made it to Making Data Simple. Thank you for that. As always, I like to jump right in so we can have a great conversation and make the best use of your time. Today, I'm with Ryan Buick. The topic we're going to have today is all around data, new technology, startups. Let me give a brief intro about Ryan as the best I can, Ryan. Let me butcher this for you, and then you can correct everything that I say. So Ryan Buick is the co-founder of Canvas. It's a Sequoia-backed startup that is reimagining the traditional office suite for a data-driven world. Ryan and his company are focused on making the process simplified and adaptable to the user. Another way to describe it is Canvas is a collaborative data exploration tool that helps modern businesses teams make decisions without SQL. With Canvas, startups transform a messy data requests into a collaborative experience for both business and data teams. That's the best I can do on a Friday afternoon. Welcome, Ryan. I'm glad you're here. Thank you. And on a Friday afternoon, I don't know who did this to us, but they're trying to punish us, I think.
Going into the holiday weekend. Thanks,
right.
Thanks so much for having me on, Al.
Well, thank you for being here. See, this is a Friday afternoon. Look what I'm going to do. See, this is... Did you hear that? Too bad that that's only club soda, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm gonna imagine it's a beer. It's like we're having a beer. What beer are you drinking? Oh, look, what do you got? Club soda too?
A little Spindrift. Yep.
Yeah, Spindrift. All right, I've got some. I don't know, Croy or something.
Faking it with the carbonation.
Given, you know? If we were having a beer, what beer would you be having?
Oh, my go-to is it's like a West Coast like Pilsner. It's called Scrimshaw.
Scrimshaw.
Really
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
All right. I that's a new one on me. I'd go with an IPA. I'd go with a hazy IPA, but that'd be after I go for wine, and after I go for bourbon, then I go for a hazy IPA. It'd be in that order, I think. I don't know. Take an opportunity to outline your experience and where you've been and what brings you to today.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, I grew up in San Francisco in the city itself. So watched, the technology boom growing up and knew that I always wanted to be a part of it. Ran a few internet businesses while I was in college and really decided, stumbled upon the product manager role. And that was, a nice, left brain, right brain combination of a few different things that I wanted to do. And so started out as a product manager at a few different startups, landed at Flexport. So I was one of the first PMs there. And for those of your audience that don't know what Flexport is, basically building software for freight, millennial old problem, helping consumer brands that want to ship their goods from, their factories in China to their distribution centers and warehouses in, United States and Europe. And when I got there, I really saw, just how data-driven the company was. And as a PM who had, traditionally relied on data teams to get me the sort of data that I needed, I didn't really have those resources that early on. And so I had a lot of anxiety. And I imagine this is a lot of the anxiety that a lot of operators out there face around, not being able to independently and confidently get the answers that they need and be, self-sufficient in terms of their analysis and their decision-making. And so I decided to, take nights and weekends courses, learning, SQL and data analytics and really, getting confident there in terms of being able to work with data. And really at the same time, we saw, over 1,000 operators, operations employees that were having the same issues, and they're running their business out of Google Sheets and they're exporting out of BI tools and they're analytically minded, but their only, sin is that they don't know SQL. And so that inspired my co-founders and I. My co-founders were early engineers as well. We were all on the same team for a few years. And when COVID hit, we decided to take up, similar product idea and go make that horizontal. And so that's really what informed starting Canvas. And so what Canvas is really a spreadsheet-like interface. It's a command center for non-technical teams to be able to take data from virtually any source. So either from a warehouse, from a database, even from the apps that you use, and be able to combine data sources together, use your spreadsheet skills, write formulas, build pivot tables, build charts, and really be able to collaborate and also write SQL with your data team and be able to collaborate with your data team in a much more sort of natural fashion rather than this traditional request response workflow and these data breadlines that we see at so many startups where, the data team wants to focus on big strategic things. The business teams want, answers quickly, and neither side is really happy with the status quo. And so that's really, the problem that we try to solve at Canvas.
Look, I got a lot of things I want to dissect, if you will. First of all, you got a huge mic right in front of you. Are you doing many podcasts or something? That's fancier than my mic that I have here.
We're just starting to play around with doing our own, where we're bringing business and data leaders together to talk about how to make data easier and simpler as well.
What's your podcast name?
We're deciding on the name right now, so I'm open to suggestions. So
well, don't do making data simple.
I would never.
All right. You mentioned you're in San Francisco. Are you still in San Francisco?
That's right. Yeah, we're down in downtown San Francisco right now.
So I'm going to jump into Canvas, but before I do, how do you go from product manager to founder? That's question number one. Question number two is, man, you picked a hell of a time to do it. I love it. Look, I love talking to startups because of the innovation, the business investment, and the passion that you guys bring. So I have a lot of startups that come on to the program here. But man, I like all the times to do it in the middle of COVID, you say, all right, to hell with it. No more product manager. I'm going to start up my own business. Tell me how that decision process works.
Totally. So when we were, really building a similar style product at Flexport for an internal use case, we started to see some success with that. My co-founders and I, they were the engine manager and the tech lead for the same team. And, COVID was hitting, and we were seeing just how hard and how exacerbated the problem that we were solving was getting with being remote. And so that had a lot to do with it. Honestly, it was seeing just how hard it was for, data teams and for business folks to get on the same page, right? Hey, I need this thing from you, right? They can't just go up and shoulder tap. They can't just go up and collaborate together. And so that inspired a lot of what we wanted to do. And then really looking at, the timing of COVID and saying, hey, we're relatively young. We can, the window is here if we wanted to try and do this thing. And so one of my co-founders had started something before, and so he was the leading the charge. And so we started getting together and decided to commit to do it. And so that was late 2020, and basically hit the road and started taking this idea that, this pain that we had all felt personally, from different sides, right? Me as a product manager, I was, traditionally on the request side of the queue, right, of the ball. And so I was the one that is analytically minded, but didn't necessarily have, the hard technical skills to be able to do SQL and Python and R and those things. And my co-founders were the ones on the other side of the ball, where they're responsible for helping out with these questions and answering these technical questions. And so we felt like we had a pretty nice mix of skill sets. And so we really just started to talk to everyone that would talk to us, right? So we had a great network from the companies that we had been at, and really just started to mold this high level idea into, okay, what's the number one burning pain that you have as a biz ops role at this company? What's the number one pain that you have as a head of data? What's the number one pain that you have virtually to all of our friends? And so,
are you venture funded today?
Yes, that's right. So we in late 2020 raised our seed round from Sequoia Capital, and from a number of angels as well, Abstract Ventures and SV Angel as well in there.
Was it three of you that started? Three amigos?
That's right.
I mean, you're going to have to explain in more detail. You kind of talked to this at the beginning, but what problems is Canvas solving?
Totally. So BI has been around for a long time, right? Business intelligence has been, there's these tools that we all know. And the status quo has relatively remained unchanged, right? Even with the advent of the modern data stack, you have data teams that are responsible for providing dashboards to business teams who need them. And that is more or less a tractable, solved problem for a lot of companies. The problem that is not solved is the everyday ad hoc exploration questions that the business has, right? And so they have a dozen questions that they're trying to answer every day, right? To do their jobs, to make better decisions, to make faster decisions. And if you don't know SQL or you don't have access to the data, you essentially have two options. One, you can get into line with everybody else, can ask your question. And even if you get the answer back, you then have 6 additional questions, right? You want to slice and dice the data in different ways. You want to join it to test other hypotheses that you have. And that takes time, right? That takes days. It could take weeks between, a painful sort of back and forth with the data team or the expert. And on the other option, if you don't know SQL, you just go to your tools and you export to CSV. And then sooner or later, you're maintaining your own operations, reporting in a maze of Google Sheets or Excel, right? And someone, the lowest person on the totem pole is responsible for updating that with the freshest data every, Monday morning. And you're late. You're reactive instead of proactive. You're making manual mistakes while updating those sheets. Maybe you're lucky if you get somebody to write a Python script for you, right? The sheets slow down. You don't have permissions to control things. You don't have a lot of versioning control. And so that's really some of the core of the pain that we solve is, hey, here's a interface that sits on top of your warehouse that allows you to use your spreadsheet skills to do the things that you're already doing offline. And you're analytically minded, but you just don't have the ability to do it with real-time data. And so that's a lot of the value that we're trying to bring to these operators is giving them this feeling of independence, giving them this feeling of confidence to be able to use their skills, but work with real-time data to do their jobs better.
So say more about that interface, because you said earlier it's a spreadsheet-like interface. I work with a lot of clients, they're trying to get out of spreadsheets, not back in them. Still, there's got to be a canvas difference. There's some no-code, low-code options out there. There's visualization, there's a reporting. Say more about the interface and what's the canvas difference?
Sure thing. So on the interface side, it's something that looks and feels a lot like what you're used to, right? So the flow for us is that you can actually pull data directly from a certified source, right? So we work a lot with data teams that are using DBT for data modeling, right? And instead of having to write individual queries and individual layers of a modeling language, they can actually just expose those DBT models directly to the business. And the business can then go and explore that data and use their formula skills, use their pivoting skills to build their own dashboards or to answer their questions or to automate their offline reporting, right? Directly on top of that real-time data. And so that's, really the interface. And that's also, frankly, what makes us different is that you can actually connect to virtually any data source. If you're a small startup, you can connect to the apps that you use, join that data with your Postgres. So we put them on a managed stack that allows them to combine all those data sources and really get the benefits of, bringing in a data consultant for much less of a cost. And then for larger organizations, we really leverage the modern data stack and what's going on there to expose their DBT models, expose the descriptions and the metadata in the DBT project so that, it reduces a lot of the questions around, hey, what does this table mean? What do these columns mean that business users often ask? And so really it's that meeting business users where they are, but also giving them the ability to use certified, trusted real-time data that the data team is providing.
Does that mean to say if you are an Excel spreadsheet guru, I mean, there's a lot of companies operating out of spreadsheets, no question. But if you have that expertise, this is the solution for you. When you say spreadsheet-like interface, tell me what that like is.
Yeah. So our web app is essentially, it looks and feels like a collaboration tool like Mural or Figma, combined with the ability to have these multiple tables moving around, right? So that you can essentially, import a table instead of writing a SQL query and then filter it like you're in a spreadsheet. And so it's all homegrown. We've built that interface for them. And on the background, what's really happening is that every spreadsheet action is translated into SQL. And so that's really the spreadsheet-like interface, right? And so the problems that we solve by doing that, and that was very intentional, right? We want to be able to have SQL-like performance, but with an interface that is relatively low code, right? And so you have these teams that come to us and they say, hey, we have our entire OKR process all in Google Sheets, or we have our entire forecasting process all in Google Sheets. And it's, assembled from a bunch of tabs that say, do not edit or refresh this date, right? And so they go in and they're spending hours every week updating it. They're making mistakes. They're slow to see insights because the reporting cadence is, weekly instead of real time. And so we go in and basically allow them to still, with the same folks that they have, the same people, be able to then replicate that in our tool and have it with massive data sets, have it with couple million rows, be able to adjust it and slice and dice on the fly, and be able to proactively report and get the insights when they're happening rather than waiting a week for someone to update that data.
So can you walk me through it just a little bit further in terms of the visualization you're talking about? Because what I'm understanding is that if I'm looking at your app, so to speak, it's I can see all the tables. I can move data where I want to move them. I can get retrieval of whatever query I'm essentially looking for. Do you use any AI? Do you use any native language requests to get some of that data? If I want to see how many customers are spending over X number of dollars, it'll be able to pull that data right on the screen there, and then all the SQL's happening in the background that your tool is providing. Just put it all together for me if you could.
For sure. So there's a couple different options. So one, there's with the rise of DBT, a lot of these data teams are putting together wide tables, right? Kimball model tables that are easily explored, right? And so you can say, hey, if you have an open-ended question, exploratory question, here, grab our transactions model, right? Be able to take that, grab our retention model, be able to take that and slice it and dice it the way that you want. And that's coming directly from DBT in the warehouse. There's other customers that are saying, hey, let's put some metrics in front of you. And so it's a relatively refined, materialized metric table that they can then go and see and be able to do some lightweight exploration on top of. And then there's other teams that just have, already the charts and everything assembled in a dashboard. And that's like a standard, sort of BI use case where these users can come in and then, search for a particular customer or region and be able to double click into the data and understand what's going on there. So it's really up to, the preferences of the customer that we're dealing with. It's typically, hey, we want some wide tables for us to explore. Hey, we want some predefined metrics that are, relatively, refined and difficult to, get wrong, right? Because, if you're taking this data and it's as open-ended as a spreadsheet, mistakes can happen. And so that's our responsibility as well, is to allow that flexibility, but put in some guardrails, right?
Is there visualization reporting? And I guess, back to my original question, can you write any language or just write out your query? I mean, like not in SQL form, but like in a natural language form?
No, not at the moment. It's definitely something that we're thinking about. And one of the things that we're most excited about is this concept of templates, where, a lot of the questions that folks from different startups have, marketing teams want to see the same funnel. Finance teams want to see the same cohort analysis, right? And so those are some of the things that we're starting to package together that really lend itself to sort of that more natural language. Hey, I just want to grab this metric. I want to see my LTV to CAC, right? Or I want to see, my MRR, right? And so those are prefabricated packages that we have and that we've productized that really help business teams get the value really quickly without, months of working with a data consultant or a data team to be able to assemble those.
This is kind of a difficult question. I kind of referred to this earlier. A lot of the customers I'm working with are trying to get out of spreadsheets. I mean, go into more into visualization, skip them all together. Now, on one hand, this is a way of doing just that in what the technology you're providing. On the other hand, Does it worry you that a lot of clients, they're in that mindset right now? Or do you say, hey, that's like trying to get rid of gasoline cars. It's going to be 20 years before that happens, and I'll be off to my next thing. I'm just trying to get a sense of where the business is in terms of where you are today and where you want to be.
Great question. We talk to a lot of data teams that they know that, they have a contract with the business where if the business takes something into Sheets, then it's not their responsibility, right? That it's up to the business then. We have a lot of data teams that, come to us and say, hey, we have a strategic BI tool, but the split between our strategic work and our ad hoc work is 20% to 80% instead of 80% to 20%, right? And so we ask why that is. And our thesis is that the majority of that work is because these business teams don't have the right skills and the right interface to be able to join different data sets together, to be able to dive into the data, to be able to explore it beyond these basic charts and beyond these basic metrics that they have in dashboards, right? And these folks are really analytically minded, but they just don't have a home right now other than spreadsheets. And so that's really what we try to provide is say, hey, your spreadsheets might be looked down on, but they still rule the world. So let's actually bring them into this age of big data. Let's actually use some of the best concepts of the spreadsheet, but let's reimagine it around data and let them do their work over that real-time data that has, the benefits of governance, that has the benefits of performance, that has the benefits of permissions and control.
What is your pitch? Let's say I'm a customer. You're walking into, a customer. You want to sell them your solution. By the way, is your solution SaaS only? Is it on-prem? Is it both?
Just SaaS. So it's just a web app today.
What's your targeted client base, client profile?
Yes. So we sell right now to data teams that are on the modern data stack. Mm-hmm. If they have a DBT project that's well built out, right, that gives a great, reasonable starting place, right? Because they can say, hey, we'll expose these, we'll solve our ad hoc problems by just exposing these tables and just give a better, more natural way to collaborate with the business team and give them what they need. And then we also have earlier stage customers who don't have a data team, who want to combine a few different apps and in their product data from their database. And we give them a really nice, easy way to connect those different data sources and be able to do that work without months of implementation. And so
essentially you target any size client. Is that true? Any size client? Is there a client that's easier to sell to though?
It's generally B2B SaaS or e-commerce. And it's generally like early to growth stage. So like Series A to C.
How long have you been GA? I mean, been selling? Actively selling?
Since February of this year.
All right. If you walk in, here was my original question. If you walk into a client and you're making your pitch and they say, hey, Ryan, don't worry about it, man. We've got Cognos. I've got a database. We're all set up. What's your comeback? What's your pitch?
Yeah. So right now, and this has happened multiple times where, they stand up their BI tool and it doesn't solve their request problem. They're still having to hire an analyst for every 10, 15 business roles that they bring on. And so that's really at the heart of the problem that we think we're solving here is that you can have your strategic BI tool. It's going to be great for exec level metrics. It's going to be great for your OKRs, but you're still going to have that problem because these operators need a way to better explore that data. And if they don't have that way, then they're either putting into CSVs, which is another mess of problems for you as a data team, or they're coming to you and they're filing tickets. And so it's often a journey that you let them go on and be able to say, okay, let's see if you can actually reduce your ad hoc request volumes with this tool that you have, because we see ourselves as complementary to the tools of the past decade.
Is this kind of like Walmart coming in and setting up shop right across the street from a Kmart to put them out of business or whatever? Do you feel like it's even better when they've got a BI reporting tool that they're using extensively, or does it matter to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's BI is a big, a lot of surface area to cover, right? And so I think the trend that we're seeing is that there are multiple with the modern data stack, right? You have these best of breed isolated parts of the stack, right? And so if you have, Fivetran, pumping all your data into Snowflake, and you have a DBT project that's consistent, right? Consistent metrics and consistent data. Why not have an interface that your data team can write, SQL and Python and R out of? Why not have an interface that your business teams can work comfortably out of, right? These teams are used to, more and more of this prosumer style of software, right? The software that's delightful and really speaks to them in their use cases. And so that's really where we're starting, is saying, hey, we want to be the interface for your business teams. You can, still do your strategic work. You can still write, your hardcore, data processes and workflows in another tool. We sit on, you're not storing any business logic in the front end, right? Like the BI tools of the past decade. So turn it on and see what happens and see if it makes your life better.
What if I'm a customer that hasn't moved the use case that I'm soliciting your feedback on? What if I haven't moved that to cloud?
That's generally why we try to work with, B2B SaaS companies that are relatively new, relatively early stage.
So you do have a customer profile then. It'd be those that are SaaS, in cloud, typically, or just getting started. That's the best opportunity for Canvas at this point.
That's right.
Okay, that makes sense. Any client references today?
Yeah, so we have a handful of relatively, sort of early stage Series A, Series B customers that are using the tool, and I think the most exciting feedback that we get from their business teams is, I've never been able to see my data like this before. I've never been able to actually independently and confidently be able to work with this data in the way that I need, right? Instead of feeling like they're dependent, instead of feeling like they're waiting. And honestly, there's a lot of these roles that frankly have imposter syndrome, right? Because a lot of these operational roles 5-10 years ago were a lot of manual work and a lot of, flipping switches and hitting buttons. And a lot of that largely is getting automated away. And so now every role is becoming a strategic data-driven role. I mean, it's hard to see a resume that doesn't ask, that doesn't mandate that it's a data-driven, applicant for that role. And so we really give them that confidence to say, hey, maybe I don't know a ton of SQL. Maybe I don't know a ton of these hard technical skills, but I actually can be data-driven. I can answer a lot of the questions that I'm getting from my CEO at midnight, on the spot, right? Rather than saying, hey, I'll have to get back to you, or rather than being, hey, in a presentation, someone asks a question, you get caught flat-footed, right? With our tool, you can actually just double click and dive into that data and be able to get that answer when you need it.
You must have different personas in security built in, or security profiles on who can access what data within your tool. Yeah.
That's right. So you can, a couple different options again. So you can either, you have role-based access control in every user's account. You can do it on the warehouse level and prevent PII from getting into our system. And you can control that by role, or you can do that in Canvas. And so you can limit, say, hey, this team only has access to these models, or this particular dashboard, this particular canvas, as we call it, can't access these data sources. These teams can access this, right? If you have your investor metrics canvas, so you have the flexibility and freedom there to control data at different levels.
Is your go-to-market all subscription then, or?
That's right. So it's a annual subscription right now, and you can come in. So we've been product-led growth since the beginning. So, thinking about how to be different in the space, and, a lot of these teams, they don't want to talk to people, right? They want to go in and kick the tires on the tool and see for themselves what you can do. And so we've made it, as easy as possible for new users to come in and sign up and use the tool and connect their data for a couple of weeks and be able to really get to value and see what we're about, rather than having to go through a lengthy implementation process and something that takes a long time. We'd much rather have both sides get to value and qualify.
Who do you consider your biggest competitor in this space? I mean, look, you could look at the big enterprise visualization, analytics, reporting, et cetera, companies. But I don't know that those are really competitors. Do you have a competitor? Who's your biggest competitor in this space?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the way that we think about this, and when we talk to data teams, they don't see us as a competitor to their existing tools. They see this as, hey, how are we actually going to solve this problem of the requests that we're getting? And the only interface that looks and does the job similar to what these operators want is spreadsheets. And so they see us as a viable alternative to getting their teams out of spreadsheets. So, going back to your original, statement where these teams are trying to get everyone out of spreadsheets, we see ourselves as the natural evolution to do that, right? Because you're not having to do a ton of training. You're not putting this spaceship tool in front of your business teams. They can get in and they know what to do with relatively little help. And so, we really see ourselves as competing almost with these spreadsheet manual export workflows that are happening, almost ubiquitously today.
Well, let me ask the question a little bit differently then. What is your biggest inhibitor to getting a sale? Spreadsheets themselves? Because they say, nah, we're good. We think we can do it with the spreadsheets. And you're like, hey, good luck. Or is it some other thing that gets in the way of, because look, you can make a case, I'll make a case for you that damn near everybody's using a spreadsheet of some shape or form. So if what you're telling me holds true, and you seem like a trustworthy guy, I would say that everybody would need your tool, right? So why doesn't everybody have your tool?
Great question. Right now, I would say data quality is going to be one of the biggest inhibitors, right? And that could be data quality in your tools. It could be data quality in your database or your warehouse. That's really, I think, where, and we talk about this a ton, right? Is data quality, observability, making sure all of your pipelines are working correctly, making sure that data is not only high quality but it's also usable. And so that's a trend that we're really trying to ride, right? Is watching these data teams that are organizing their data and making it not just quality but also reasonable. And so that's probably the biggest inhibitor. Is you have a lot of teams that are say that they love DBT and they're just getting started and building out their project, but it's too early. There's not enough models for the business team to go in and explore and answer a ton of questions that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side, with connecting directly to apps, it's, hey, there's still a lot of test data in here. There's still a lot of data that needs to be cleaned up. And so, yeah, I'd say data quality is probably the number one reason.
So, but I get your point on those that are just starting out. Maybe they're not to a point where they need you yet. On the other side, are you saying that, like, sometimes these companies that you may work with may have a data swamp, and so being able to use your tool on top of a data swamp, poor data in means poor data out. You get stopped at the data itself. That's
right. And that's really something that we try to optimize for and qualify, early on in the conversation is, hey, what is the state of your warehouse views? What is the state of your DBT project, right? Is this something that you'd be comfortable putting in front of the business, right? Instead of having to artisanally craft every response that you give back to the business, is this something that you'd feel confident putting in front of them? Are those the right layers that we talked about earlier? And so, yeah, that's definitely something that more and more teams are trending towards, and it's always a battle to get there. But we want to be the interface for when that happens.
So we've went through what Canvas is, what problem you're solving, your differentiators. Look, one more minute on how would you sell the folks that are listening? They're thinking, maybe I need this, maybe I don't. What would you say? What would you say to push them over the edge and say, look, you got to go check us out. Here's why.
Totally. If you're a data team and you cannot scale and you're underwater and your analysts are burning out because they're having to help out the business so much, check out our tool.
But that's job security for those guys, right?
What's up?
I said that could be job security for those listeners.
It's definitely job security, but it's also it's a better quality of life, right? For that job, they can work on the things that they got into data science to work on. Right? They didn't get into data science to work on every, tactical request from everyone in the org. Right. And so that's my sell to data teams. And then for, founders listening, for, line of business owners on the ops side, on the sales ops side, finance side, PMs. Your team is making slower, maybe suboptimal decisions today because they're reliant on someone else. And so with our tool, you can connect to the sources that you need. You can get that data in an interface that you're comfortable with and be able to move faster and make better decisions.
What is your definition of success for Canvas in the next 3 years?
Definition of success is that we're helping hundreds of data teams scale, and we're helping hundreds of business teams be able to get out of spreadsheets and be able to maintain their own reporting that's accurate, that's real time or near real time, and that they feel independent and that they feel confident.
How many people are part of the company today? How many have you grown to?
Yeah, just a handful. So we're just starting out. So we spent most of last year building, and had a handful of design partners that we're building the tool around, and since February, I've starting to pick up more and more traction.
If I was a good podcast host, I would ask this question at the beginning, which I'm not. I know you're a founder, but what's your formal role? I mean, what do you hold? I know that you're the marketing right now because you're out on a podcast with me, but what else? What other roles do you hold?
Yeah, totally. So I am, I'm doing wear a ton of hats. So I am basically right now helping, all of our users that sign up, because we're product-led growth, they can come in and sign up. Working with them to get to value. So building out, their first initial use cases, right? And helping them in the tool. And then also reaching out to new folks, doing the founder sales thing, and then doing the marketing stuff and doing podcasts like this.
What's your biggest fear to success? I mean, is it like the macroeconomics? Like if we head into a recession, is it, no, that's not it. Is it people embracing the technology fundamentally? Is it being able to scale yourself fast enough to make a difference? I mean, what is it? What do you have a fear? I mean, everybody has a fear. What would be your biggest fear?
Yeah, I think biggest fear is just making sure that I think it's an execution risk, right? You've gone into this space that has a ton of folks in the space, and there's a lot to build. And so I think it's mainly a prioritization and hey, how quickly and how well can we build this product that, we have strong signal that people love already, but can we actually build it in the right way and keep it simple and keep it relatively easy to use and not turn it into a spaceship. So I think it's an execution and design risk.
The cool thing about that, if that is your biggest fear, then it's all within your control. And you define the success of the future, right? Make it happen. I like it. All in. That's what I mean about passion for those that are in startup business. Is there anything that I should have asked you that I didn't? Anything you wish I would have asked you?
No, I think we covered a ton. I'll plug Canvas real quick, which is,
please do.
You can go to our site. It's canvasapp.com, app.com. And you can sign up for yourself. You can watch a demo on the site. You can connect your data sources, your warehouse, your database, your apps directly, and start to play around with the data and really understand, the problems that it solves.
Very good. Usually I have to ask somebody to give their contact information. You volunteered it. You're like a professional. I like it. Very good. How do they reach you, Ryan? Yeah.
So my Twitter is at Ryan J. Buick. It's Buick. Or my email is ryan@canvasapp.com.
What do you do for fun, my friend, when you're not doing this, when you're not doing in startup land?
Oh, man. I like to hang out with my dog, go to the beach, and I'll try to bike around the city as much as I can.
The beach is pretty cold around there, is it not?
Freezing.
You can't get in the water.
No, you cannot.
But I guess you can hang out in the beach.
But you can throw a tennis ball with your dog is a couple of miles.
Okay. I like that. Yes. You got to have one of those slingshots and just throw it like 3 miles down and then wait till hopefully he'll come back.
Exactly.
Very good. What's your favorite restaurant in San Francisco? One thing I love about San Francisco is you guys got a ton of great restaurants. What's your favorite one?
Original Joe's in North Beach, hands down.
Original Joe's in North Beach. Tell me a little bit more about it. What are we serving?
It's like old school Italian, just old school Italian restaurant. It's been there forever. It's like steaks, pasta. It's right in the heart of North Beach, right in Washington Square there. So it's just a really fun part of town and a pretty amazing meal. Wow,
you didn't hesitate at all when I asked that question. That's like at your top of your list, and then there's like this big blank.
There's a mile gap.
Wow, you don't own the place, do you? Or
no,
you?
No, that's free. That's how you know you have a product people love.
That's what you want people to say about Canvas, right? They're right. That's a customer reference right there. You have any book that you highly recommend? What's your most favorite or your most recommended book for others that you love? Kind of butchered that question, but you get it, I think.
Yeah. What's a book that
Anything you recommend? It could be a podcast too. I know you love Making Data Simple, but forget Making Data Simple for now. I'm looking for something else.
Yeah, it's probably not the number one book that I recommend, but it's the book that I'm reading right now. And especially if you're at a startup and you are thinking about how to run it and how to make the right decisions. It's the founders. It's the story of the PayPal mafia. And nice. It's just an incredible, like, deep dive. I think a lot of business books sort of skim and keep it high level, and it's sort of the same anecdote over and over again. This book dives into the nitty gritty and the details of what it was like to be there when it was happening, and goes super in depth, and you learn a ton from those details.
Look, I wish you ultra success. If there's anything I can do to help, I'll certainly do that. I think, we'll have this out in a few weeks. We'll socialize about it. Anything you want to end with before I sign off to the listeners?
No, I think that was great. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on, Al. Really appreciate it.
No, you bet. I enjoyed it. And for you listeners, my spill by this time, but please rate us wherever you're listening to us. Hit us on almartintalksdata@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to have you on. And I guess until next time, we'll see you on the podcast. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.